That's the main part.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, you guys sold, how did it go out at the farm out there? Selling out there? Not too many?
We'll give it a try, but I hope I don't. I can't tell. I'm always encouraged to come suggest ideas. People are so fixated on these things.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people do.
About that? Yeah. You try to that one.
Go ahead. All right. If I can have your attention, we'll call the December City of Rolla Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. You should have received an agenda. Unless there's some proposed changes, we'll proceed with it as printed, posted, and distributed. First item on the agenda is approve the minutes. You should have received those. Any additions, corrections, changes necessary? Hearing none, I'll approve those as printed and distributed. Next item is report on recent city council actions. Tom?
So you sent forward 2 items from the last meeting. That was the rezoning on Oak and Olive on Highway 72 and the one on Walnut Street. The city council did approve both of those.
Any questions for Tom on the city council actions? They're still working on the cell tower.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I noticed if you look outside and where the parking lot, there's 2 cell towers. If they come down, they're gonna hit your cars, but you probably never noticed them, so. But hopefully the city council will get an amicable decision on the cell tower. We have no old business. We have 2 public hearings. The first public hearing is a zoning change for 602 North Cedar, 407 East 6th Street, and 603 North Walnut Street. So rezoning from C2 and C1 and R3 to C1. Tom?
Yeah, just C2 and R3 to C1.
R3.
Still a mouthful. So this is an area map showing the property. The property has frontage on 6th Street. It's directly across the street from the Benton Square development. It also has frontage on Cedar and Walnut Streets. It's basically half of that block there. The applicant has acquired all the, there's 3 kind of properties. There's 3 buildings with addresses anyway, so 3 properties, and has acquired all of them. The property, as I said, is currently zoned C2 on the west portion of it, which is the general retail district, and then the eastern portion of it is R3, which is multifamily zoning district. The rest of the block is zoned multifamily. The areas to the east are zoned multifamily. The areas to the west are generally zoned, a lot of it's zoned C1. There is property that's zoned C3, but it's generally zoned commercially, it's to say that. Then the Benton Square development is a PUD, and the PUD allows for all sorts of commercial type uses, mostly retail. So, you know, there's a restaurant in there and some stores and that sort of thing. This is a street view on 6th Street looking toward the east. There's, as I said, the property has at least three or maybe 4 residential buildings on it. I think they're mostly houses. There might be a duplex on there. So just to summarize, the comprehensive plan does designate the areas being appropriate for medium and high density residential uses. It is located, however, in the Arts and Entertainment Overlay District. The Arts and Entertainment Overlay District it allows for additional things on top of what the zoning allows. It also has a few restrictions that are part of that overlay district. The overlay district in general is intended to allow for some commercial type uses, generally aimed toward, well, arts and entertainment type things. So if you read through, there's things like theater, things like art galleries and that sort of thing to try to kind of stimulate that sort of growth in that area. Since it was created, there hasn't really been much growth toward that end. Most of what is there in that area was there before the overlay district. In fact, this development here we're being talked about is one of among the only developments that's happened since the overlay district has been created. As I said, the applicant owns about half the block there, so it's more than just one lot. It's a big piece of property for that area. Part of it is already zoned C2. The C2 district does allow for what the applicant intends. The applicant is intending a professional office type development. However, the other property was zoned R3, and that would need to be rezoned for that type of development. And so, in discussion with the applicant, it was decided it might be just as good to just apply it for the C1 district for the whole property, so it'd all be under the same zoning. C1 is also kind of a down zoning from the C2, but since C1 allows for what the applicant wants, it also kind of eliminates the possibility of certain commercial uses that perhaps we wouldn't want to have in that area. It is near other office and retail type uses. You do have some alternatives when you're going through this. We'll come back to that after the public hearing, I think. Do you have any questions for me before the public hearing?
Just go ahead.
No.
Could you speak a little bit louder?
I can try.
Thank you.
Some of us are old, and some of us are older. So, just for clarification, I think our information said there's sidewalks on all sides. I don't think that's true. I know there isn't any on the north side, because that's cuts through the properties. And I don't think there's any on the east side, but I could be staying corrected. Also, that building in the middle, can you go back no, there's a garage. When I was on the city council, it was restricted, that could not be used as a residence with the zoning that they got at the time. Sutterfield building.
Okay.
And it's not that old, but it's not
Explains that. I
building.
wasn't sure what it was. That's
Well,
sort of
look,
why I
it's-
wasn't sure if there was 4 houses or 3 houses, but
It may be used as apartment, but it's
it-
not supposed to according to the.
it looked more like an office building, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what it was.
Any other questions for Tom? Hearing none, we'll officially open the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this issue? Okay, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Please try not to repeat anything anybody said before.
Bill Moorcamp, 13401 County Road 8492. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the property. I can tell you that the building in question is not being used as a residence. There is no water or sewer in it, so it's just used as storage right now. There are sidewalks on all 3 sides, though.
Oh, there is.
Yes, sir.
Do you plan on
I'm sorry.
keeping any of the buildings, or?
Currently, is there a way to go back to if you look at the street view, the black house would be torn down. The garage you were referencing would be torn down for sure, and then the other 2 houses could potentially be torn down depending on the size of the building.
Okay.
But the 603 and 407 are both rental houses, and they would either stay that way or be torn down depending on the size of the building needed.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Moorcamp? Looks like a big, good addition. I'm just down the street, so we welcome all positive changes, so.
Yeah, I mean, you'll look at 504 as, let's see here, My Serenity, obviously Benton Square is there, Archer Elgin, then you have the hair salon, Orville Reed Studio is to the north, and then you have the Cedar Street Playhouse as well, so kind of would fit in that area.
Okay. Any other questions or anything?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak to this issue, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll officially close the public hearing. Any comments or questions from commissioners? I'd entertain a motion.
Move to send this to the city council.
Okay, we have a motion to send this to city council with our approval with the recommended changes in zoning. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got 2 again, you can take your choice. Anderson or Bowie?
Give it to Mr. Booth.
Any other questions, comments before we vote? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bowie,
Yes.
Florence,
Yay.
Martin,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Stephen Shields, or Stephen Shields, yes.
Yes.
and Kreider.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimous, I think. Next item is State Route V, 4122, State Route V, rezoning from R2, two-family district, to M2, heavy manufacturing district. Tom?
Okay. This property is located on Highway V. You see it on the area map. It is on the very northern boundaries of the city limits. You might be able to kind of make out a kind of a green line around the red line outlining the property. You see the city limits basically follows the property boundary on three sides. The property currently has two single-family houses on it. It is adjacent to the kind of what you would call the industrial park, the High Point Industrial Park. Property is currently zoned R2, which is two-family. I'm not 100% sure why it was zoned that way. I mean, it has two houses on it, but R2, that doesn't allow for more than one house on a property. It allows for a duplex. But anyway, many years ago, it was zoned to R2. I assume because it has two houses. Perhaps the code at the time allowed for that, but I don't know. But it is adjacent to the south. Those properties that are in the industrial park are zoned M2. The request is to zone to the M2, which is the heavy manufacturing zoning district. As the property is adjacent to the city limits on three sides. So on those three sides, it's unincorporated Phelps County. So there's no zoning on those areas. This is a street view. This would be looking south on Highway V. You can kind of see the two houses that are on the property. So just to summarize, the comprehensive plan does designate this property as being appropriate for industrial uses. The applicant, Rolla Community Development Corporation, plans to purchase the property, and then they would market it for industrial type uses. The industrial park itself is a little bit limited on prime industrial property because, as you know, Rolla is a little bit hilly. And so this property is less hilly than some of the areas that are left in the industrial park. And so that would, ideally, it might be a good place for industrial type development. As you look at this, you do have some alternatives. You can recommend approval or recommend denial or table if you need more information. Do you have any questions for me before the public hearing?
Any questions for Tom? We'll get a microphone for him, Steve. Any questions from commissioners before we open the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll officially open the public hearing. Here again, anyone wishing to speak to this issue, please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Matt Williams, 15435 County Road 7230. I'm with RCDC. We have entered into contract to purchase that property contingent on the rezoning. It wouldn't be of any use to us if it wasn't zoned for manufacturing. It's, as Tom said, it's contiguous with the industrial park. It's just north of the old FedEx building. It's a fairly level 5 acre tract, and it would probably make a good addition for future use.
Any questions from Mr. Williams? That's painless.
Thank you.
Okay. Just as a disclaimer, Mr. Anderson works with a gentleman that is processing the real estate deals, so I don't see a conflict, but just want to make sure everybody knows it.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I knew you would object. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners? Anybody else wishing to speak to this issue? Seeing none, I'll officially close the public hearing. Any other questions before we vote? Provided I get a motion, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we send this on to the city council with our approval for the rezoning to heavy manufacturing.
Okay,
Second.
we good? Okay, any other questions or comments before we vote? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bowie,
Yes.
Florence,
Yay.
Martin,
Yes.
Schmidt. Schmidt,
Yes.
Stephen Shields,
Yes.
Kreider.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimously. Thank you. We have one item of new business. It's a minor subdivision, final plat to relocate a property line between two commercial lots. Tom?
Okay, this is Subway Subdivision Number 2. It's a replat of an existing subdivision. The property is highlighted on the area map. It's located at the corner of Forum and 10th. It's where the subway is located, as you may have expected. Currently, there are 2 commercial lots. I should point out that there is a floodplain on the property that does impact the second lot quite a bit. There is floodplain on both lots, but the subway lot is already developed and out of the floodplain. But the second lot has quite a bit of floodplain on it, and that would impact the ability to develop the property. The property is zoned C2, which is the general retail district. It is kind of surrounded on the east and the southish sides by the R1 single family district. And then it's across the street from RTI, which is a public zoning. And then across the street from C2 general retail, just like this property is zoned. This is the plat. As I said, they're still planning on being 2 lots, but what's happening is the lot line is being moved a bit further to the north. So this line that just popped up, that's where it is currently. This purple line is where it's proposed to move to, and that is basically is just north of that drive that's on the subway lot currently. So the parking would be on the subway, but that area where that current drive is would be on the other lot. Doing this would increase the amount of developable area on the property that's not in the floodplain. So just to summarize, basically it just adjusts the line between 2 commercial lots, just moves it up a little bit. It increases the developable area of Lot 2A. It appears to be in compliance with all subdivision zoning requirements. You do have quite a few alternatives. We can find that it meets the requirements, recommend approval. We can find that it could meet it with conditions, recommend approval with conditions. We could find that it does not meet the code requirements and recommend denial, or if you need more time, you can always table it. Do you have any questions for me?
Just one, you're moving up the lot line, and I'm sure the Banholzers won't do anything to jeopardize their business, because it's a good subway, the one I use. Anyway, we have certain restrictions on number of parking spaces, and since they put a drive-through, it took some of the parking places since the building was built. And if we move the property line, will they still be in compliance with the required number of parking places?
Yeah, the property line doesn't impact any parking spaces. All it is that driving. Let me go back to the air photo. All it is that driveway kind of below there would be on the other lot, and so it doesn't affect the parking on the subway property. And the additional development will have to make sure it meets the parking requirements. But as of right now, subway is okay, and they won't lose any.
Okay. Any other questions for Tom?
Yeah, so it's gonna, the driveway, entryway, they won't be able, will be on the second lot then, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I guess I'll just use that for both.
Will they use it for both properties then, or?
Well, the applicant hasn't prepared a development plan for the other lot yet, so I would say that's not decided yet. They may use it as a shared driveway if that's how it turns out. They may be proposing to move driveways around and that sort of thing. Maybe have each lot have its own driveway, but development plans have not been prepared for that other lot.
Okay. Any other questions for Tom? Any questions, any comments? Not, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we send this to the city council with our recommendation for approval.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got that there? Any other questions or comments before we vote? Roll call vote, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bowie,
Yes.
Florence,
Yeah.
Martin,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Stephen Shields,
Yes.
Kreider.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously, I think. We have no other business. We have no committees. Chairperson doesn't have anything to report. Tom, you have anything else you want to share? He doesn't. Any comments from the citizens? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.
All in favor, head for the bar.
Yeah, well.